Welcome, everyone, to our Packers News post-draft recap. Alongside Ryan Wood, I am Olivia Reiner. Today, we're going to discuss all of the Packers picks taken on day 3 of the NFL draft, and we're also going to take a step back and look at the entire draft of in 2020. Lots to discuss. Before we dive into it, I want to remind you, as always, can be part of our conversation. Head on over to our comments on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching this from, and leave us your thoughts, leave us a question you have, and we will try to address some of those towards the end of our show. Ryan, let's just jump right into it, and we'll take a quick look at all of the picks that the Packers made today on day 3 of the draft. So let's start by taking a look at Minnesota inside linebacker Kamal Martin. The Packers picked him up in the 5th round of the draft. He only played 8 games last season. He missed 5 due to a knee injury. He has an interesting journey. He went from high school quarterback to edge rusher to slot corner to an off-the-ball linebacker once he got into college. What can Martin bring to the second level of the Packers defense?
Well, they needed to add numbers to that second level, and the time that they had on him, according to one of their scouts, was a 4.5, 4.6 40. So he's a mobile linebacker, a guy that can run. As you said, in his positional history, there is some coverage ability there. So he's a guy that, in tandem with Christian Kirksey, has a chance to play some snaps, perhaps in sub, some in base. He's a big guy, 240 pounds, so there's some take-on ability there that in the box as a run defender should serve him well. And finally, and this is really the same for any day 3 pick, and it was a theme of the draft, he's a special teamer. He's a guy that can provide special teams ability, and that's going to be awfully important to him finding a role with this team.
The 6th round went a bit different for the Packers. They had 3 picks, and all 3 of those picks were spent on offensive linemen. The first one being Michigan offensive lineman Jon Runyan. If his name sounds familiar, that's because he's the son of John Sr., who was a Pro Bowl tackle for the Eagles. He played mostly left tackle in college at Michigan. However, he feels comfortable moving around. What makes him a good fit in a Matt LaFleur's scheme?
Yeah, the Packers historically have had a lot of success moving a tackle, in this case a left tackle, into guard. Matt LaFleur said that he sees Jon Runyan as primarily an interior lineman and a guy that has the pass blocking ability to transition well to the inside. Jon Runyan thinks that he can still play a little bit of tackle. Only 33 and a quarter inch arm, so it'd be tough for him to play on the perimeter of the offensive line and go against those big defensive ends on the outside. But, in the inside, he's a guy that can give him some depth, and obviously his pedigree is awfully impressive.
Absolutely. The Packers also added a center as well. 6'4", 303-pound center Jake Hansen from Oregon. No sacks allowed over his first 3 seasons out west. How does Hansen fit in as a potential backup for center Corey Linsley?
Well, it'll be interesting. When you look at, obviously the big move of this draft was in the 1st round, Jordan Love. They have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. They draft Jordan Love. 2nd round, Aaron Jones, going into the final year of his contract, they drafted a running back. Corey Linsley, going into the final year of his contract, they draft a center. That doesn't mean that a 6th round guy is going to be able to come in and provide an adequate insurance policy for Corey Linsley if they can't come to an agreement within a year. But it's a possibility, and it's something that frankly we'll have to see how that unfolds. But certainly it can't be discounted. So we'll see in the long term in time. But with all these offensive linemen in the 6th round, they're going to have to come in and earn it.
Finally, the last offensive lineman that the Packers took in this draft is guard Simon Stepaniak out of Indiana. He has 30 starts at right guard there at Indiana. He had 37 bench press reps, which was the 2nd most by an offensive lineman at the Combine. What depth can he add behind left guard Elton Jenkins and right guard Billy Turner?
Well, he's strong as an ox. It'll be interesting. He's really big, so that lateral quickness in an outside zone scheme is going to be interesting. But 37 reps is the thing that stands out with him. Really strong, and obviously same for all these guys. Special teams will be big.
Finally, two defenders in the 7th round of the draft, starting off with TCU safety Vernon Scott. He's very good friends with Ty Summers, inside linebacker for the Packers, said he called him something like a brother while they were at TCU together. 6'1", 206 pounds, a 4.56 40-yard dash. What does his size and speed tell you about the role that he can play in the Packers secondary?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because not only are they set at safety with Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage Jr., but really they've got a lot of young guys too. Will Redmond, Shannon Sullivan. Those are guys that, Raven Green, they're young guys that can play and add some depth there already. So I do think maybe more than anybody in this draft class, Vernon Scott's key to the roster is really going to be special teams. He's not a big safety, so it doesn't appear that he'd be able to fill that hybrid role dropping into the box. He's barely over 200, about 206. So he's more of a pure safety, and in a lot of ways probably a special teamer.
Special teams, often the way some of these players have to get on the roster. Then finally, our very last player here. The Packers selected defensive end Jonathan Garvin from Miami, 12.5 career sacks at school there. What's interesting about the Packers and their outside linebacker core right now is that it's a pretty veteran room now with outside linebackers Preston and Zadarius Smith. Rashawn Gary was the first overall pick last season for the Packers as an outside linebacker. How likely is it that Garvin can compete with outside linebacker Rashawn Gary for snaps this season?
Oh, no, I wouldn't go that far. A lot of these 7th round guys are projects. You like an athletic trait. You see them perhaps like Ty Summers last year in the 7th round as a special teams performer. I would think it's a far stretch to be able to come and compete with a 1st round pick from a year ago. You never know, but the reality is that for those guys at the end of the draft, they've got to cut their teeth on special teams, and we'll see if he's able to do that.
Competition is competition. So those are all of the Packers draft picks from tonight. Let's take a look at the entire board. Those are all of the Packers' 9 picks in the 2020 NFL draft. Let's talk about some big themes. There's a big elephant in the room, Ryan, if you're not aware. I'm sure you are. You look at every single position on this list. Some of the needs that the Packers had coming into this draft have certainly been addressed in some capacity. However, not a single wide receiver on that list. Why did the Packers opt to focus on other positions in this draft over a wide receiver?
Yeah, I think Brian Gutekunst would say that it wasn't so much focusing on other positions as much as it was focusing on what the board was and what the board told him. It's just a matter of when they were on the clock, the opportunities were not there for them to take best player available at receiver. And so Brian Gutekunst mentioned that late 2nd round, he had mentioned that he's hoping that some receivers might be there and that weren't. And as the draft kind of played out, that seemed to be a theme. The guys that they might have taken in the spots they were, they weren't there. Their movability really changed with trading that 4th round pick in the 1st round. You didn't see them moving up again, and so that part might have played a factor as well. They didn't have the ammunition to go up and get a guy. And the other part too, they're clearly going to run the football. That's going to be big on their end, and it's something that they're going to want to really hammer home and with big receivers who are good blockers. Something they had last year, and they feel like they have again.
Speaking of running the football, let's bring this list back again. Matt LaFleur mentioned tonight that he's looking forward to including a 3rd running back possibly in his rotation, but at the very least as just a competitor to running backs Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. A.J. Dillon is one of the names that could make an impact right away this upcoming season. Who has the potential on this roster, on this list of draft picks to make it an impact this upcoming season?
That's hard to say. The difficulty is going to be the virtual offseason, and this is going to be no different for any team, in the league, especially late round guys. How can they come in and get a get a job, a role when you're not getting hands-on teaching. I think A.J. Dillon is a guy that is going to be counted on to pound the rock. He's someone that they feel like can really work in concert with Aaron Jones and be a guy that, can kind of provide a different type of runner to what they have with the lightning of Aaron Jones. So, I would start there. It's going to be really interesting too. Those offensive linemen in the 6th round, how do they differentiate themselves? Because that's the same position, and it's going to be something where they have to, come in and kind of find a niche for themselves. Special teams will be big there, but certainly the providing depth. Keep in mind, Lucas Patrick is also someone that they extended late last season to be a depth guy as well. So they have some guys in-house to do that as well. How those 3 offensive linemen differentiate themselves.
All right, everybody. It appears we lost Ryan, so that's okay. I'm going to go make sure that we can go grab him back, and then we will restart the live stream. So I appreciate your patience. Give us just one moment. We'll be back soon.